Thank you.
10:01.
Yeah, no, will be a whole different.
Okay. Andy, we are live.
Outstanding.
All right. We'll stay in alive. Probably that's it.
I'm going to go ahead and shut that down.
Okay.
We'll leave the sign up in case anyone else straggles in.
That sounds fine by me. Okay, well, I want to thank you all for coming today. Again, my name is Andy Kamp. I'm a personal trainer here with Training Camp Personal Training, contract with the Wellness Center, and they've asked me to come out here today and do a little presentation for everybody, and I'm more than delighted to do that. A little bit about me. My background is in physical therapy. I was a physical therapist for 35 years, transitioned recently to personal training. So I've seen a lot of the other side of the street, a lot of post-injury, post-surgery difficulties that people are having. And applying that to personal training, I think, is something that I'm kind of motivated to do at this point in my career, simply due to... Flip it over?
So that the puppy part is facing towards you.
Okay, so like this. I got it? Is that better? All right, thank you. So, trying to be a little bit more preventative, be a little bit more proactive in keeping people out of the clinic. That was always our goal in the first place, but as physical therapists, we did a really bad job of getting information out there. And so part of what I wanted to do with personal training is try to improve people's quality of life and keep them out of that sort of a situation. So today we're going to talk about one of the least understood and not frequently discussed parts of the workout, which is actually the most important part of the workout, which is recovery. So we're going to work on recovery, the art and science of the post-workout. At the end of the presentation, we're going to take some questions, whatever time we have left. And again, but if anybody has a question about anything during the course, feel free to just go ahead and fire up, because if you're thinking it, somebody else is probably thinking it, and we can just handle things on the fly if we want to, okay? So, my first thing that I want to let everybody know about is that I am not presenting this presentation in any way, shape, or form as related to physical therapy or the provision of physical therapy services. I am speaking as a personal trainer and referring to post-exercise of a healthy population. So if you have questions of a physical therapy nature, I can definitely refer you to somebody who can take care of that for you, but that's not the thrust of this particular presentation. So, I'm gonna put everybody in the hot seat. Give me some reasons why we exercise. What's the point of coming to the gym every day, having the Wellness Center membership? Why do we want to come here and do these things?
Longevity.
It's better than staying home with your mate.
I'm going to have to add that to the presentation. That's one I didn't consider. But yeah, and my wife would agree. Give me something to do and somewhere to go. Longevity, good one. Strength, perfect. Balance, love it.
To look good.
To look good, absolutely. I'm never going to get there, but I'm going to try. Okay, so yeah. So what's that? Motion is low. Absolutely the case. So some of the things that we're going to be dealing with regard to exercise is strength, of course. Want to increase strength. Absolutely. Also, looking at improving endurance, okay, the ability of musculature and physicality to sustain activity for longer periods of time. Okay. Cardiovascular health, okay, related to endurance, okay, improving the efficiency of the cardiovascular system to allow for sustained activity. Flexibility, another one of the most misunderstood and poorly completed exercise activities, which I might give a presentation on at another date. It's kind of important. Balance, whoever said balance, absolutely significant. Fall prevention, falls, one of the things in a more advanced population that will cause so many difficulties that we would just want to be sure that we're staying ahead of that if we can, because balance is one of those things that we stop challenging. When we stop, walking on the curbs with our buddies and climbing to the top of the apple tree to get the best apple, when we stop doing these things, balance suffers because it doesn't get challenged. And so that's one of those things that a good exercise program should incorporate. Sport-specific proficiency. Pickleballers, tennis players, you name it, cyclists. Anything that you're doing, rugby players, whatever you do for fun, whatever you do in your off time or what you're training for, bowling, okay? Balance, flexibility, coordination, all those things can be enhanced by a good workout program and recovery. Injury avoidance, okay? If you're flexible, if you've got good balance, if you've got good strength, if your core's squared away, you're less likely to injure yourself. And so, again, one of the things that's important with regard to exercise. general health and wellness, okay? Again, through related to injury avoidance, just making sure that you're in good enough shape to do the things that you need to do and want to do on a daily basis. And just to feel better, okay? Now, this presentation is specifically geared for individuals who like structured exercise programs, okay? People who are working out on a regular basis at a particular level to try and affect gains. If you're one of these folks that just likes to go to the gym, you know, you're going to take a dance class this week and an aquatic program next week and play around in the gym one day, or sometimes you just go there and walk and talk to your buddies. That's all great. Activity's fantastic. It's like eating food. You got to do it and it's good for you. But this presentation may not be for you, because what we're going to talk about are the things that lead to muscle soreness following, exhaustion, the feeling of being run down from exercise at a consistent level for a protracted period of time. Like I say, if you just enjoy working out for the sake of working out, God bless. Run with it. But this presentation is going to be a little bit more toward the structured workout enthusiast who engages at some levels in a significant way catabolically, and we'll discuss that.
Is this the post-test?
Yeah, no, the only person getting tested today is me. Okay, so working out is a catabolic process. It means it tears things down, okay? When you go to the gym, you're tearing things apart, okay? You're destroying complex molecules to access energy for the utilization of the musculature, and you're actually doing violence to the muscular tissues themselves as you shred them apart in a catabolic process of the activities that you're doing. So when you go to the gym, the activities you do here are actually the tearing down of things, okay? This isn't where you build up. This is where you tear down, okay? Now, in a non-living system, that breakdown remains, okay? When, a mountain of shelf erodes, okay? Nobody puts that back up, okay? That process of breakdown perdures in a non-living system. But in a living system, that breakdown activates the engines of anabolism, or building, that then result in the gains that we see over time. Okay? So the catabolic process of tearing things down that occurs during the workout is followed by the building up process that occurs, when do you think?
When you rest.
During the rest period. Absolutely. So that's what we're looking at. We want gains. We want that strength. We want that endurance. We want that balance. We want that sport-specific function. Okay? If we want those things, coming to the gym is great. But because that's where you're setting the stage for how to build up. But if you're not maximizing and emphasizing the post-workout recovery, the point where everything is being built up is being hamstrung. It's not being done to its greatest capacity, and that's why we're here today. Anabolism leads to development with adequate rest and exercise. Without adequate rest and exercise, you will not have as efficient a building up process following the teardown that occurs during the workout. So, this is what everybody thinks when they think workout, okay? And everybody front loads this. What type of exercise? How frequently? How much? What are my reps? What are my sets? How much you bench? Okay, that's where everybody goes to determine what their exercise capacity and effect is going to be. Okay, they front end load what's going on, and all of that stuff is important. But again, that's the tearing down process. It's only half of the equation. You have to look at the other end. So the goal for today's presentation is to offer an introductory understanding of the current information available on the necessity, application, and benefits of appropriate recovery following exercise. Okay? So we've already discussed catabolism leads to anabolism, and it's cyclical. So the catabolism, tearing down of the complex molecules to allow energy for the working process of whatever it is you're doing, weight training, cardiovascular training, sport-specific stuff, okay? Then the rest period, the anabolic process, rebuilding those molecules and preparing for the next workout with the benefit of having seen some movement in the direction of strengthening, increased cardiovascular functioning, balance, coordination, etc. I'm going to rabbit trail. Okay. So, Andy, you're telling me that when I work out, it's tearing the muscles down. Okay. But when I finish my workout, I'm pumped up. I mean, I can see my arms are bigger. I can see my legs are bigger. I know I'm bigger and stronger when I finish with a workout. What's that all about? It doesn't look like I'm being torn down. What you're noticing is an increase in fluid movement into the tissues, blood supply, extrastitial fluids moving into the tissues due to an increase in things like lactic acid buildup. You're looking at an inflammatory response, which is, when you injure or aggravate tissue, that's what you get. There's some swelling that's involved, and a lot of that just comes from the extra fluid matrix being moved into the cellular tissues, and when the tissues are lysed, that stuff moving out into the extracellular regions. But you'll notice when you get that pump, it never lasts more than a few hours. Okay, it goes away. All right, that's the body working against the inflammatory process and normalizing or returning to homeostasis those static processes that were there before. But those processes, that catabolic process, leads to the body then trying to build up more efficiently and better than it was before, the anabolic process that follows the catabolism. So just rabbit trailing to let you know, I'm not smaller, I'm bigger. Yeah, you're bigger, but that's the process that leads to the actual anabolic process of the strengthening that occurs in the rest period. Okay, so these processes that we start with, these tearing down functions that when we attack the muscles essentially through whatever kind of exercise and activity we're doing, lead to then that anabolic process of building up and getting stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sitting through all of that. Now for what everybody came here for. Yeah. That's just you, Joe. The numbers. Okay? So, with regard to what to do, when to do it, and how much. Okay? Anybody got any idea what the first number is? So they say, anytime anybody asks you, so what's the number? What's the first number? What's the number? What's the answer?
1.
4. Okay? First number is 4. What does 4 relate to? The 4 R's. Okay? What are the 4 R's? Rest, recovery, rehydration, and refueling. Okay? So that's first number you need to remember. Those 4 things. That's what we're doing with our rest period, with our recovery. Next number. Any guesses? 144. What does 144 refer to? Dollars. $144 is the annual subscription to a journal referred to as Medicine, Science, and Sports and Exercise. It's a flagship periodical for the American College of Sports Medicine. The majority of the information that I'm going to give you today comes from the American College of Sports Medicine, who are the experts. They are the AMA of exercise and physical recovery, functionality, rehab. These guys do nothing but a ton of high quality research. And they produce a periodical, about $12 an issue, that you can access, and you can also access it online. Some of their higher quality content will be paid online. You can kind of go article to article, but their most recent articles will be online, and you can access those at any time. Some of their lower quality articles, but still very good stuff, you can just access and kind of read if you're a research nerd like me. They are fantastic, and I advise you to take advantage of that, because anything you want to know about anything in the world of fitness, rehab, recovery, training, these guys have already done the research or are doing it. It's incredible the wealth of fantastic information that they give. And so when we're done here, you want to research things even further, American College of Sports Medicine, Medicine, Science, and Sports and Exercise, fantastic. And I get no financial compensation for mentioning these guys, but it's just a fantastic periodical that if anybody likes to look into that sort of thing, I recommend you do. So, aerobic activity. So, if we're going to know how to recover, we got to know at what levels we need to train. Okay? So, aerobic activity, we're looking at moderate level, 2.5 to 5 hours per week. A moderate level, now we can look at heart rate, target heart rate, max percentage of heart rate for training effect. Moderate level is you're doing the training, you can talk to someone while you're training, but you can't sing. Okay? If you're working that intensely, that's moderate level aerobic cardiovascular activity, 2.5 to 5 hours per week. Vigorous activity, 75 minutes to 2.5 hours per week. Vigorous is, can't hold a conversation. You're working so hard, breathing so hard, you can't. This is where you sweat good. Okay? Vigorous activity level, but less time per week needed if you can sustain at that level. Okay? The important thing is you spread it out. Okay? You're not going in on Monday saying, okay, I'm going to get my cardiovascular work out of the way, I'm going to run on the treadmill for 5 hours. Okay? Not the way to do it. Best way to do it, you do a 10, 15 minute warm up, sustained rate for 20 to 35 minutes, and then a 5-10 minute cool down at the end. Okay? Again, you can access any number of the trainers here, people here that can talk to you about how to actually determine what is an appropriate level for you. And of course, before you start any exercise activity, contact your doctor. Right. Get checked out, make sure that you're okay to do these sorts of things before you start any kind of exercise program. Resistance activity. Major muscle groups, okay? Back, arms, core, legs, chest, all right? You want to do those 2+ times a week. Okay? 2 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions for each muscle group. Each exercise, you should do anywhere from 8 to 10 exercises. Okay, that's going to get you a pretty good workout, and you can group them or go whole body. It really doesn't matter. Again, just determine what works best for you. There are optimal directives with regard to these sorts of things, but everybody's different. So, don't necessarily let something that you read in magazine A convince you that you need to be doing something. Kind of assess by feel. The proof is in the pudding, okay? Work in the range that is safe and determine what works best for you. That's kind of the art of recovery and exercise, is that it's not just simple mathematics. Everybody's at a different level. We talk about Carvone and heart rate monitoring, okay? Everybody knows the heart rate monitoring of 220 minus your age, okay? And then 60 to 80% of that, okay? But if you factor in your resting heart rate, then that allows you to kind of personalize what goes on with regard to where you are when you're sustaining your cardiovascular activity for that 20 to 35 minutes. So again, like I say, there's a little bit of art to it, and that's just kind of a personal control that you have over the numbers, and that's why most of these things come in a range. Okay. 60 to 80% of your 1 rep max. Calculating 1 rep max is exactly what it sounds like. You go to the gym, if you're wanting to strength train, whatever motion or activity you want to do, make sure that you're doing it correctly. Be sure you get some guidance with regard to that. Then when you have that good form locked in, you do 1 repetition, okay? If you can do it safely, feels good, and you keep good form, increase the weight. And you continue to increase the weight until either you can't lift the weight or your form fails. Okay, so it's always good to have somebody watching you when you're determining that 1 rep max so that you know when you've hit your wall. Okay, and that's your 1 rep max, that's your training level. 60 to 80% of that, 2 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps. This is the thing you never see in the gym. When you are training heavy, okay, it's why people don't stretch in the gym, because it takes a long time, and it's why this gets ignored, okay? I call it micro recovery, okay? And this is a directive through the ACSM. They've done a ton of research on it. If you want to maximize your strength training, you give yourself 2.5 to 3 minutes between each heavy set, okay? There has been a ton of research done on this. It allows your following set to not only be safe because you're strong enough to control all the joints that you're utilizing during the course of that activity, but it also allows the muscles to rebuild to the point where you can extract, God bless you, not at all. You need a tissue? You need a tissue? No. Okay. Extract maximum activity or output from the following set. Okay? And again, 2.5 to 3 minutes, it's a range. When I do training sessions with my clients, they'll tell you, when I'm in the gym with them, as we're moving through things, I let them cheat, okay? We rest for about 1 minute, 90 seconds, okay? Because I know time is of a premium when we're training. But I always advise them, when you're coming to the gym, when you're not with me, keep that micro recovery consistent and active. Longer durations between your sets. Okay?
Is it like if you do on your legs, the lifts?
Mm-hmm.
You do 10, and then you take 2.5 minutes?
2.5 to 3 minute rest, right? But that's if you're training maximally. Like I say, if you're training to the point where you're like, I couldn't do another rep. Yes, give that recovery. Make sure that recovery time is there. It is significant. You don't see it in the gym, but that's not because it's not the right thing to do. Okay? Everyday exercise activities. Now, there are certain things you can do every day. All right. Most importantly, core. Okay. Nobody trains the core. 30 plus years in physical therapy, I was training core on everyone. So don't feel bad if you're not training core, and core is not sit-ups, okay? There are so many better things to do for the core than sit-ups. There are dozens and dozens of exercises. I could put a core program together that would bake you every day, okay, and would not do a single sit-up, all right? Just remember, core is important. Find safe exercises to do, and that's another thing that we might do a presentation on at another time. Getting at that core effectively and safely, okay? Because it's significant. Everything runs from here. Every arm motion, every leg motion. If the foundation isn't stable, it's not going to be a good result, okay? Or you at least open up your propensity for injury, okay? Flexibility. We've already talked about this and how important it is, okay? These are things that you can do every day. Your stretches. Always do your stretches. That's another thing. Again, my rehab experience, nobody stretches. And when they do, they're not stretching correctly. We can do a stretching presentation at some point. I think that would be beneficial to let people understand what are the mechanics, why do we do it the way we do it, how to do it appropriately. But this whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Wildcats are the best. Okay, that doesn't do anything. Okay, that is not a stretch. All you've done is kind of build camaraderie on the team. Okay, a stretch is low load, long duration, and few of them. Okay, you need to do few of them because you'd be stretching all day if you did like 10 repetitions. 3 reps, 1 minute hold, usually enough to get the job done. Balance. Okay,
Wow.
this stuff. Okay, kicking things over. But yes, balance, like we talked about, starts to deteriorate very, very quickly. One of my favorite pieces of qualitative research. You got quantitative research, you got qualitative research. Quantitative is really more my thing. The numbers, you take a measurement before, you do the program, you take a measurement after. That's the kind of stuff I enjoy. Qualitative research, on the other hand, are things like, perceptions and things like this. Well, my favorite piece of qualitative research comes from the mid-90s, and what the name of it will tell you everything you need to know. Do we stop climbing trees because we grow older, or do we grow older because we stop climbing trees? Okay? It's a fantastic little piece that elucidates exactly what we know. When we stop doing these things that we did as kids, the systems that we needed to support at that time suffer. They start to deteriorate, they start to break down. So again, balance is one of those things that as you get older, it just doesn't get challenged. And if anybody knows, freestyle wrestling in high school, this is where we are, okay? You're low to the ground, center of gravity's low, wide base of support, okay? 60 years later, we're in the same position again, walking around like this. Okay? All right? Why? Center of gravity is low, wide base of support makes us feel more stable as our balance decreases. So you've heard it a million times, standing on one leg while you brush your teeth, while you cut up vegetables for, be careful because sometimes you're not paying attention when you're cutting up vegetables and you nick yourself. But yeah, just doing things like that when you're at home, just when when the commercials come on in the ball game, do some balance work. And standing on one leg, that's good. Heel-toe walking, that's a good dynamic balance activity. Okay, very challenging. Forward and backward. Okay, just be sure you're safe. Don't do anything that puts you at risk. But yes, challenging your balance in a safe way, very important to do, and you can do it every day. These things are related to active recovery. Okay, there are 2 types of recovery that we're going to talk about today. The first is active recovery. All right, so active recovery are things like swimming, cycling, stretching, and balance. They increase blood flow, okay, but they don't catabolize, okay? They're just your general feel good. I like to ride a bike, so I'm just gonna go ride around in the neighborhood. I like swimming. I'm not swimming laps. I'm just kind of playing around. I'm doing the backstroke. I'm doing the crawl. I'm just kind of splashing around, having some fun, okay? It increases blood flow to the muscles, and the blood flow to the muscles helps move out those lactic acid and inflammatory constituents that cause the problems that you're experiencing in the first place with things like sore shoulders, tight calves, all these things that come from that what we call delayed onset muscle soreness, which comes from the activity of tearing down and inflaming the tissue. Soreness reduction, all those sorts of things. So what does this sound like? Okay? You've got a kind of a negative effect from something, it doesn't, it's kind of, I got achy muscles, my muscles are a little sore, so I'm going to do a little exercise to get ahead of that. I'm going to do a little activity to make that feel better. Teleco people know this old adage very well. Little hair of the dog that bit you. Okay, all right. So a little activity following a period of heavy activity and the soreness that comes from that generally results in a little bit better result, a little bit better, a little bit shorter time to recovery. So that's your active recovery. Okay. Yes.
You do swimming and cycling though that are quite stressful.
Quite strenuous, right? And as I mentioned, this is not that. This is just the gentle. I'm just playing around in the pool. I'm just going for a bike ride through the through the neighborhood. Going to go see a couple of friends while I'm out there. Just little stuff like that. And then of course stretching and balance you can do every day, which again, active recovery. Passive recovery. Okay, this is where we talk about the things that I think few people incorporate at a very titrated level. Okay. 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours between heavy resistance sessions. So you work out to the point where, the muscles are really feeling it. They get a good burn, you got a good pump when you're leaving the gym, and you might even have a little achiness later on, okay? 24 to 48 hours recovery time for those muscle groups. Now, I like to go to the gym on a daily basis. I'm one of these, gym guys that just likes hanging out in the gym. Fantastic, break it up. You can, if you did your back, your shoulders, your arms, okay, maybe do core legs on the next day, okay? Give the tissues that you worked out aggressively the day before a rest break, 24, 48 hours for recovery, and then work something else in the interim, and then just alternate or oscillate. And don't be afraid to do different exercises in many perspectives. That getting good sleep is essential to optimal functioning of the human person. But for recovery following exercise, definitely one of the things that you want to do, because balance, accuracy, muscle function, muscle recovery, all these things keep you safe during the course of your next workout. And so it's something that you definitely want to make sure that you're taking time to accomplish. So sleep quality. Deep sleep releases growth hormones, essential for healing and muscle growth. Question is, how do you get quality sleep? I'm waking up all night. I don't get good rest. When I get up in the morning, I still feel tired. What do you do to try and promote that? Well, just like anything else. If you want to increase your bench press, you don't necessarily just do bench press. Okay? You're doing other things to support those muscles and those joints that allow you to increase the overall effect of what it is your target goal is. And for sleep, reduce fluid intake 3 to 5 hours prior to going to sleep. I don't think I have to elaborate on that at all. I think we all understand what that's about. Okay? Don't drink as much. You maybe don't get up as much. Okay? Reduce screen time. 30 to 60 minutes prior to bed has been the standard recommendation. There's a guy who just did a study, and everybody's going to hate him, but his findings were 3 to 5 hours prior to going to sleep. Restrict or eliminate your screen time, because blue light interferes with melatonin, which is a sleep hormone, which allows you to rest better. Studies have been done on this for years now. We spend way too much time in front of screens. We just need to get out of the habit. If you want to improve your sleep, this is one of the things you can trim to start to work in that direction. Okay? So, how should the room be? Well, and again, these are things that will not jive for everybody, but the main thrust, the meaty part of the bell curve needs to be quiet, okay? So, a lot of people need noise machines to sleep, and that's probably because it just causes a drone, something that covers sporadic noise, and that's fine. But as quiet as you can get it quiet, get it dark, okay? Because our circadian rhythms are tied to, we're diurnal individuals. We're up in the day and we're out and around at night, but our bodies start to shut down naturally at night, okay? So make it as dark as you can, and then, of course, as Joe will tell you, listen to one of my presentations, okay? Cool, 60 to 70 degrees. And that's plenty chilly. A 60-degree house, especially in the wintertime, that's pretty cool, okay? But you blanket up, you make yourself comfortable, but again, there's some flexibility there. Okay? Scheduling consistency, okay? Set an alarm. We all have alarms for when we get up. Getting up at the same time, going to bed at the same time. Extremely important to maintaining that circadian rhythm that allows you to rest well. It tells your body when it's time to shut down. Makes it easier for it to go to sleep if it knows, now I'm supposed to be going to sleep. Every night, same time, okay? So not only set an alarm for the morning, set an alarm for when it's time to go to bed. Because you get involved in something, you're binge watching a program, or you're FaceTiming with your grandkids in Wisconsin, whatever it is you're doing. When that alarm goes off, it's time to go to bed, okay? And you start to set that rhythm so that your body can kind of get into that mode, and it's not as sporadic with regard to when you're getting your sleep. Some things to help with that: routine, triggering the rest cycle. Can be done by, again, giving yourself stimulus that tells the body it's time to sleep. A warm bath, a warm shower. Those are very relaxing in the first place. If you do that just before you go to sleep, you do that and you do that consistently, your body starts to know, oh, it's time to start shutting down. I'm relaxing to the point where this is where sleep usually takes place. Reading something boring. $12, medicine and science and sports and exercise. Buy that thing. If you don't like research reading, that thing's going to put you to sleep every night, but you're going to take something away from it. You'll wake up with the thing on your chest, but you'll be like, oh, I did remember that one thing that I read in that magazine as I was, falling off to sleep that one time. Less than 7 hours sleep per night is consistently shown to increase the likelihood of musculoskeletal injury. So definitely something that you want to work on, increasing your sleep quality, increasing your sleep duration as needed to allow for improved recovery. Next thing that we're going to talk about, something very near and dear to my heart, diet, okay? How to eat to recover, okay? So, when we mobilize these complex molecules and break them down, we break them down to create or to activate ATP lysis, okay? To rip off phosphate molecules from the ATP molecule, which releases the energy that allows the systems to work. We want to rebuild those. One of the things that rebuilds ATP is creatine. Creatine is in your lean meats, your fish, your chicken, these sorts of things, okay? You want to eat that stuff, and you want to start to build into that quickly following your exercise program. I am not a dietitian. I have no significant dietary training. What I'm going to give you are the things that you can find in just about any reference material that are pretty much understood and accepted by 90% of the population who make this their profession. So you're always going to find outliers, people who have different ideas about different things, but I'm just going to kind of give you the meat and potatoes of diet as relates to recovery. Okay? Okay, so carbohydrate to protein ratio, 3:1 to 4:1, okay? Carbs to protein, okay? Initiation post-exercise would be 30 to 60 minutes. So when you get home, you start to load, okay? You start to get the dietary intake that you need to maximize recovery. Carbohydrate intake effects, it improves, it replenishes muscle glycogen. Muscle glycogen is the molecule that gets torn apart in the muscles. It's kind of like the quick burst energy so that the body doesn't have to metabolize things, from the bloodstream or pull from other tissues. It's actually in the musculature, and it's a good source for high intensity, quick access energy. So you want to rebuild that glycogen. Carbohydrates, very important to that effect. Yes, ma'am.
3 to 1 to 4 to 1.
Uh-huh.
What 3 to 1? 3.
3 carbohydrate to 1 protein.
3 calorie, 3
No.
portion.
No, well, ounces. Okay, and we're gonna talk about that. Okay, I've got those numbers for you as well. Fat intake combats inflammation, helps in the uptake of A, D, K, and E vitamins, and some of the things that you can utilize for that. Some of the things that are good fats that you want to intake: avocado, olive oil, these sorts of things. Okay, so here are your numbers. All right, so again, I can get you these numbers if you'd like afterward, but just to kind of let you know what you're looking at. Protein intake, 0.02 ounces per body weight pound over the course of 2 hours following exercise. A 175-pound individual would need 4 ounces of protein in that time. Okay. Carbohydrates, 0.7 to 0.9 ounces per pound per hour for the 3 to 5 hours following exercise. A 175-pound individual will need 12 to 15 ounces per pound for 3 to 5 hours. Okay? Or I'm sorry, yeah. 13 to 15 ounces each hour for 3 to 5. Some dietary options that people tend to agree on with regard to these things: Greek yogurt with berries, low-fat chocolate milk, chicken with quinoa and vegetables, cottage cheese with fruit, and always, of course, emphasizing whole grains. Hydration. Sedentary man needs the intake just on a daily basis, just under a gallon a day. Sedentary woman, just a little less than that, 0.7 gallons per day. Amount post-exercise. If you are doing a lot of exercise that causes you to sweat, where you're losing body weight because of fluid loss, okay, you want to put 20 to 24 ounces of fluid back into your body for every pound of body weight lost during a workout. Okay, that's for rehydration. You've got 2 hours to do that. Okay, and you want to drink things. Water's good, of course, but you also want to drink things like chocolate milk, sports drinks, these sorts of things, because they replenish things that aren't in water that you're going to lose, sodium and fats and other things. Okay, and it also has carbohydrates, which again, important for recovery. You also want to drink during exercise. That's going to mitigate your weight loss, okay, and it's going to keep you hydrated, keep you functioning at an appropriate level. Because one of the things that you want to watch out for is overhydration. Overhydration, very dangerous. Most people don't run into a problem with it. Most people underhydrate. But if you overhydrate, the problem with that can lead to hypernatremia, which is a decrease in percentage fluid blood sodium, okay? And that can lead to all kinds of bad things, to include brain cell swelling, headache, confusion, nausea, vomiting, weakness, seizures, coma, and fatal cerebral edema. So, drinking important, but mix it up, spread it out over the course of 2 hours, and mix up what you're putting in so that you're getting fats, you're getting electrolytes, these sorts of things. Questions? And you guys did a good job of asking during the course of the presentation. And don't be afraid to come up to me if something comes to you. You see me out there in the gym or whatever. Just come up at any time. We can talk about this stuff. And as I said, I can get you any of those resources that you would like subsequent to the presentation today. Anything? Going once. Yes, sir.
Okay. If you had to give me your only three-step guide to the best recovery plan I can have in layman's terms, what would it be?
I would add a fourth, and it would be the 4 R's. So refuel, eat right, rehydrate, do it appropriately, rest, get your sleep, and then again take your days off as needed and time in between. That would be the process. And again, each one of those things, especially, and I'm glad Trey asked that, because that leads to a very important point, which is, okay, so the whole dietary thing, okay, how do I do that? All right, it's important to do. You may need to talk to your physician. If you've got a gluten insufficiency, or not insufficiency, but a gluten sensitivity, okay, or you're diabetic, or you've got all these other issues that can complicate dietary intake, you're going to want to talk to your physician and possibly have him refer you to a dietitian to make sure that your recovery eating optimizes the recovery but doesn't cause problems for anything else that you've got going on. Yes, ma'am.
So I want to revisit the hair of the dog.
Okay?
Let's say, for example, I did a workout and my calves are killing me the very next day to the point where it's like even difficult to walk.
To walk, right.
So the very next day I went golfing in a lot of hills and that hair of dog bit me in the ass.
Yeah, that may have been a little heavy. Yeah.
So, how much do you do to kind of recover?
Again, that's a great question. And, again, this is part of the art. The art will be determined by the individual and their tolerance. If you'd have said, hey, Andy, my calves are really killing me. It's hard to walk. Should I go out and walk 9? I'd have probably said, can you get a cart? So if you rolled around on a cart, maybe roll right up on the ball. Yeah, of course not. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah. But simple things like riding a bike, doing a little bike work, doing a little, just when you're sitting, reading your book or whatever, just some ankle pumps, some ups and downs, just gentle motion to allow for, again, blood flow into the tissues, getting that mobility back, stretching the tissues that might be a little tight because of the inflammatory process and the achiness, and then possibly even just some gentle stretching. Like we said, stretching you can do every day just to kind of help with mobility there as things probably tightened up a little bit.
How about a massage?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great stuff.
In that situation.
Yeah, that'd be a fantastic suggestion, recommendation, Joe. Good thing.
So should you use a heating pad?
Heating pad's great, yeah, because that'll move blood supply into the area. But again, from the standpoint of hair of the dog, we're talking about active recovery.
Right.
But yeah, passive things like massage and heat, absolutely fantastic for that sort of thing if you've got access to those sorts of things. Hot soak in the tub, yeah, it's all good. Does that answer the active recovery hair of the dog question? Okay, great. Anything else? Oh, yes, sir.
You gave me my 4 R's protocol.
Uh-huh.
Let's say I have none of those habits.
Okay.
Which one is going to get me the greatest return on my investment if I start there?
Rest. Okay? You're eating, you're drinking, okay? Get your rest and your sleep. Be sure that you're building in the micro recoveries during the workout, okay? Taking time in between your sets as needed to allow for the rebuilding and prep for the next set, and then taking your days off during the week. Absolutely. That will be, because like I say, most people, you're going to eat, you're going to drink, you got to do that to live, okay? You're going to sleep, at some point you're going to pass out, okay? But the active thing that you can do that generally doesn't get done by your body for you is making sure that you're resting adequately between your reps, between your sets, and between your days of working out. So that would be my one recommendation if I had to pare it down, but I'd fight you on it.
No one else?
All right. Guys, thank you very much. Appreciate you. And again, come and catch me anytime. Like I say, I love to talk about this stuff. I am a complete nerd for this sort of thing. So yeah, I'd love to talk about it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.